What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. As always, we broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios. And we're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And TrueMark Financial Credit Union, head on over to any one of their 24 branch locations or shop online, TrueMark.com/PHLY, anytime, anywhere, 24/7 to get started today. And a happy Friday to you. We've made it to the end of another work week as we march towards Snowmageddon. As we get closer and closer to whatever this impending snowstorm is going to bring. I gotta be honest with you, I'm like dreading this snowstorm. You know how I feel about the winter in general. But I said this the other day on Anthony's show. Picked a really bad time to buy a home because now I am responsible for the upkeep of my house and I have to shovel and salt and all of this. I don't mind shoveling. It's a good workout. But if it's going to be 1.5 feet of snow, might be a little bit different. Then I also have to try to figure out a way to get myself out of the house to go help my mom and shovel her house as well, because that's what you're supposed to do as a good son. It's going to be a long weekend for all of us. So hunker in. Hope you got your essentials, your bread, your milk, your stuff like that. You got your salts. You got your phones charged, everything ready to go. In case it does end up getting bad, stay safe out there, but enjoy the snow a little bit. I am looking forward to... we're going to get a little sled for our 1-year-old, pull him around in the backyard a little bit, see if he likes that. The last time we took him out in the snow, his face kind of looked like there was a mixture of pissed off and trying to figure out what we were doing. Because we took all these pictures, and I'm like, first time in the snow, and it's me and him, and I'm like grinning ear to ear because it's a memory I won't forget. And I saw him, and he's like, I hate it here. I'm cold. I want to go watch Miss Rachel. But so that's kind of what I'm in for this weekend. The bad is, of course, going to be the work that has to get done. But I am excited to do the fun stuff with the little one. Thank you, Markel Futz. I appreciate it. Yeah, we closed just before Christmas, so I'm very excited about that. Anyway, we've got a full show ahead for you today. Ethan Hartley's back and hanging out with us, producing and co-hosting. We'll talk to Ethan in a little bit. But here's what's coming up on the PHLY Phillies podcast as we wrap up the week. We're going to talk about the Phillies' rotation depth. We know we talked a lot about the contentness of this team and how they feel like they're pretty much set. The one place, however, that we did say that there is still some room to potentially add is within the starting rotation towards the back end of the starting rotation. So we're going to discuss Taijuan Walker, Andrew Painter, and a couple of starting pitchers who are still on free agent or that are still free agents that could potentially be fits for the back end of this rotation. Major League Baseball put out its top 100 players right now, and 5 Phillies made the list. I'm sure you can guess who they are. We'll tell you who they are in just a little bit, but we'll get into the details of it, discuss where these players rank and if it was the right spot, too high, too low. We'll get into all of that. We have to talk about the Mackenzie Gore trade that happened yesterday. The Nationals send Mackenzie Gore to the Texas Rangers for 5 prospects. We also have to talk about the 27 players that the Phillies are inviting to spring training as non-roster invitees. One guy in particular I'm super intrigued with, based on his past as a former major leaguer. We'll see what happens with him. And then, of course, we'll wrap up today's show with a Remember Me that we did not do on Wednesday. Now that Ethan's back, we'll do a Remember Me Friday edition as we wrap up the week. Anyway, welcome back into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here, Ethan Hartley producing. Hello to everybody hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate you all being here for another edition of the show. Let's get started with the Phillies rotation. And Paul Casella from MLB.com yesterday wrote a pretty interesting piece, or a pretty solid piece, I think, about the Phillies starting rotation. Now, the headline reads, the Phillies rotation in 2026 has a chance to once again be one of the best in the majors. Unlike in recent years, however, it also poses a legitimate threat to quickly become the club's biggest Achilles heel. The reason that Paul writes those two leads back to back is because either one of those things could take shape. Now, I've said this before. I have no doubt that the top of the starting rotation is going to be fine. Jesus Luzardo and Christopher Sanchez are going to headline the rotation. Zack Wheeler will be back eventually. Now, what does Zack Wheeler give you when he returns? I don't know. None of us know. I don't even know if Zack Wheeler knows what his return is going to look like until he gets to that point. But even if you get 80, 85% of what we've gotten from Zack Wheeler over his first five or so seasons as a member of the Phillies, that is still a very legitimate top-of-the-rotation guy, because you're talking about somebody who has several times in his Phillies tenure finished second in the Cy Young voting. You're talking about a guy who last year, before the injury, before the blood clot, was on pace to be in the Cy Young contention once again. So even if you get B or B plus Zack Wheeler, you're still getting somebody who is going to bolster your starting rotation. Christopher Sanchez, I have no doubt, while he may not pitch to the same tenure that he did in 2025 because it was an unbelievable season, is the type of ace level pitcher that any team would love to have. And the fact that you're able to slot him in as your number one until Zack Wheeler returns and for the foreseeable future gives you great relief at the top of your rotation. And then in terms of sheer stuff, Jesus Luzardo's nasty. We've talked a lot about Jesus Luzardo over the last 12 months or so. The acquisition of him was a really strong one. And we saw for the better part of 32 starts, I would say 27 of his 32 starts last year were good or better. I would say 5 starts were bad or worse, 2 of which, of course, were abysmal. But even if you go past the numbers and get rid of those 2 starts, the stuff was electric. The strikeout rates were off the charts, and he himself threw the most innings in a season in his career. Yes, workload may come into a question with those 2 guys, with Luzardo and Sanchez specifically, but I have no doubt that those 2 guys will rise to the occasion. And so when you look at those 2, plus Zack Wheeler's return, whether it's late May into June, sometime in that early summer months, you're feeling really good about your top 3. Now, the question marks, of course, will reside within number 4 and specifically with number 5. We've talked about this plenty. Last year, you had the luxury of Ranger Suarez being your 4th starter. Now, maybe he wasn't nominally your 4th starter, but when you talk about those 4 guys, productivity-wise, Ranger Suarez may have been your 4th most productive starter when everybody was healthy. And that's not to say that Ranger had a bad season. He was excellent for a majority of the year. There was a stretch in June and July where he was near unhittable. And we've talked about how much we love Ranger Suarez on this show. He's going to be sorely missed. Making up 157 1/3 innings pitched and the highest strikeout rate of his career, the most innings pitched of his career, is not going to be an easy feat. It was a presumed loss based on the numbers that the Phillies have spent over the years, but it doesn't soften the blow at all of losing Ranger Suarez in the starting rotation. So now instead of thinking about just the 5 spot, you are thinking about number 4 and number 5. Now, presumably number 4 will be Aaron Nola. I shouldn't even say presumably. It's going to be Aaron Nola. Now, the question is, what type of Aaron Nola are you going to get? If you get 2025 Aaron Nola, even pre-injury, it's going to be a long year for the Phillies starting rotation. I'm expecting a better year in 26 than what we saw in 25. Now, is Aaron Nola going to pitch to the level of his contract in 2026? I would highly doubt it. But I think you're going to see a better year in 26 from Nola than what you saw in 25. I'm not asking for that every other year Aaron Nola, where you get the good, the bad, the good, the bad. I'm not asking for the good year Aaron Nola. I'm looking for something in between to justify him being your number 4, because really, you don't have any other choice. But the real question mark for me right this moment lies in the time before Zack Wheeler returns. Because until Zack Wheeler returns, Aaron Nola is really your 3. And the question is, who are the other 2 guys? I think internally is where you can start. You start with Taijuan Walker and you start with Andrew Painter. Taijuan Walker is probably the easiest to predict because we know kind of what we're expecting from Taijuan Walker. 2 seasons ago, Taijuan Walker was amongst the worst starting pitchers in all of baseball, qualified or not. He had one of the worst seasons amongst starting pitchers in 2024. 2025 was a much better year for Taijuan Walker. I thought for a while he was kind of an unsung hero of the team. He did what the team asked of him. He was a stopgap. He was a swing gate between the starting rotation and the bullpen. He was somebody who could give you extra innings. He was somebody who could give you a spot start here. He was somebody who could give you 3 or 4 starts in any given time. Now, I'm not expecting a 3.3 ERA from Taijuan Walker, but it was somebody that you could turn to in a pinch and say, give us 4 or 5 innings of somewhat productivity. Get me through the lineup 2 times. Keep limit hard contact. Try to keep the ball on the ground as much as you can. But the expectation for Taijuan Walker should probably be swing gate type of guy. He's going to start the year in the starting rotation, assuming that they don't sign or trade for somebody. But I think the expectation for Taijuan Walker will be similar to what we saw last year. Start the year in the rotation. Ranger Suarez wasn't ready to begin the season. Start the year in the rotation. When Zack Wheeler returns, maybe he's the guy that kicks out to the bullpen. But he's going to be asked to do multiple roles over the season. I think it's pretty easy to kind of predict the tenure of Taijuan Walker in the final year of his deal. Now, that's not to say that Taijuan Walker is a plug-and-play answer to all of the questions. I think limiting Taijuan Walker's innings is still going to be something that they're going to do to get the best out of him that they possibly can. 4 innings here, 5 innings there. When he moves to the bullpen, multiple innings, probably 2 at a time type of thing. You're not asking Taijuan Walker to go out there and shove for 7 innings anymore. You're asking him to get through the rotation twice, or the lineup twice, and give you 4 or 5 good innings on any given night. Limit the runs allowed to 3 or 4 on any given night. Give your team a chance to remain competitive in a ball game and win a ball game when you exit that game, knowing your bullpen is presumably as good as you hope it's going to be. I think Taijuan Walker is fairly easy to predict what he's going to be. The bigger question mark, of course, is Andrew Painter. When or if does Andrew Painter make his first start as a member of the Phillies? I think that they are hoping that Andrew Painter comes into spring training, pitches well, solidifies himself as a member of the starting rotation from day one, and is a member of the starting 5. There's a chance the Phillies could go to a 6-man rotation, but I think their best course of action right this moment, their hope, is that Andrew Painter runs away with the job and you don't have to ask any more questions. But if Andrew Painter struggles in spring training, if the command isn't quite there just yet, if they feel he needs another month or 2 in Lehigh Valley before he comes up in mid-May or early June, or if they want to play the contractual game, which is the Super 2 of the whole thing, which means that they won't call him up till that early date in May to keep that year of arbitration intact, they're still going to have to figure out what they're going to do with the starting rotation until he makes his debut with the team, which I think a lot of us are presuming is going to be this year, but I don't necessarily know when it's going to be this year. So the easiest internal answer is Taijuan Walker and Andrew Painter until Zack Wheeler returns. But if either of those 2 guys aren't what you're hoping, whether Taijuan Walker has a down start to the year, or Andrew Painter is not readily available to start the season because he needs a couple more starts in AAA, whatever the answer may be, the Phillies still may need to look externally to sign a starting pitcher to give them depth. And that is where we kind of get into the mystery player segment of the show, which we're going to do in just a second. I think if the Phillies are going to sign anybody to a major league deal the rest of the way, the only spot that I see it happening is within the starting rotation. And that would be a call to say that either they think Andrew Painter is not ready or they want to get more depth for depth's sake. And so I do think that they still are actively looking for a back end of the rotation type of guy. The problem is they have to find a Venn diagram overlap between somebody that they can get for fairly cheap. I don't think they're going to spend a ton of money. Somebody who wants to take a 1-year deal, and somebody who is also understanding that if they don't pitch well early in the season, there is a chance that they're going to get usurped by Andrew Painter at some point. And so when you put all of that together, it's a smaller pool than just saying, hey, who's left in free agency? Because I think it's easy to say, oh, go sign, I don't know, Justin Verlander, who pitched really well for the San Francisco Giants in the back half of the season last year. I don't think Verlander wants to take a spot in this particular rotation unless he's guaranteed basically an entire season in the rotation. Same could be said for a Max Scherzer. I think the same could be said for a lot of the guys that are left in terms of not the preeminent starters, your Framber Valdez, your Zach Allens of the world, the Zach Littells that we've talked about, those type of guys, the Adrian Hausers, the Chris Bassetts, the, who was the other one that I was looking at today that I can't remember who it was. Those type of starters where they're established veterans. Aaron Savali is the other one. Established veterans who I think are going to want pretty locked in opportunities to be starters in a rotation somewhere. and not just to be a guy who, if things go south for you, they may look to pivot. And so it's a smaller Venn diagram overlap than you think. And that's kind of where we're going to get to a couple of the arms that we brought up. But before we do that, I want to welcome our second member of today's show into the program, our producer, our co-host. That's our buddy Ethan Hartley. He's back, battling through being under the weather a little bit, but glad that you're back with me today, Ethan. Your thoughts on the back end of the starting rotation, especially in the however long Zack Wheeler is out for time frame?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little higher on Taijuan than most in terms of like where he's at and building momentum to be, better than he has been at his worst. It's hard because as you've mentioned, players, especially established veterans, are going to come here wanting a more consistent role.
An established role.
The moment Zack Wheeler comes back, they got to put on the table, and then if Taijuan goes back to the bullpen, well, then he's just incredibly expensive for what he's providing. And so it's a little bit of a tough spot to say, as the Phillies, we need to move one way or the other. I don't know if it's necessarily I don't know if I call it a good problem really either, because it seems like one way or another, wherever you go with it, someone kind of gets screwed over, and it doesn't, it's like a problem. It needs a solution, but it's also another problem waiting to happen.
Well, you bring up the money of Taijuan Walker, and I think for the last 2 years now, we've had the sunk cost conversation with him. You're paying him no matter what. So if you can utilize him in a flexible role, you saw, I think the one thing I've always given Taijuan Walker credit for over the last couple of seasons is being a consummate professional. You saw it 2 years ago. He absolutely stunk last year, or 2 years ago, and he knew it. And there was one start in particular where the Phillies starting rotation had gotten really taxed over a week. Multiple guys pitched poorly in a row. And Walker was pitching poorly in the game, and he went to Rob Thompson and said, "Hey, listen, I know I'm not pitching well, but our bullpen's taxed. I'll eat the innings. I'll do what you need me to do." And I've always given him a lot of credit for that. And then last year, I think he really solidified that by having that dual role of starter, bullpen, long man, starter, bullpen, long man. I give him a lot of credit for his consummate professionalism, especially on the heels of 2023 when he was the guy that was like, "Man, I can't believe I didn't pitch in the postseason at all." And it was like, well, you weren't good enough to pitch in the postseason. The last 2 years, he's been a incredible pro. I give him a ton of credit for that. I think that they're not going to look at that issue, the money issue. He's not going anywhere, but they're not going to look at the money issue and say, well, we're paying this guy $18 million, so he has to be a starter, because they've already shown that that's not the case. So I think for me, that first and foremost, it's never a bad thing to have depth, even if maybe you slightly overpay for depth. But I think in this particular instance, it's not even necessarily about having depth. It's about having 5 starters in general until Zack Wheeler returns. And that's my bigger question mark is, for the first time in many years, the Phillies don't have a solidified 5, probably since 2023. Because you remember in 2022, they were using Kyle Gibson in the World Series. They were using Bailey Falter in postseason. They traded for Noah Syndergaard. They had starting pitching depth questions. And then Ranger became a full-time starter fully, and Sanchez became a full-time starter fully, and really solidified their starting rotation. Last year, the only question mark prior to the Zack Wheeler injury was Aaron Nola's struggles. And then he becomes, he gets hurt, right? But they were able to turn to McAble for a time. They signed Walker Buehler because they needed some depth. This is really the first year in a few years where heading into the season, the starting rotation and the starting pitching depth in total is questionable a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to say that the top end of the rotation is not going to be good, because I do expect it to still be very good. But there's question marks at the back end.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of partials, I think, from players. Realistically, you're going to get a partial season from Andrew Painter if things don't work out, or you get a full season, and that's great. You're going to get a partial season from Zack Wheeler, and I think that's really where the handicap kind of starts.
Sure.
And how do you fill that time with roles that make sense? Well, you have Taijuan Walker, and there might be that might be the scapegoat that you need in order to really not worry about the problem going forward. But then, if that doesn't work, then bringing in starters and flip-flopping roles. Like, not everyone might have the same kind of continuity and understanding that,
Sure.
I'm changing my role so much, my approach needs to be.
Well, I think you're right. It takes
Yeah.
a mentally stalwart person to do that. It's a difficult ask. I think in any role, it's a difficult ask to say, hey, you're kind of the swing guy. Some days you might be tasked to be, you think about it in this industry, right? Like some days you may be tasked to be the host, but some days you may be the associate producer and do some of the grunt work, right? Like that's a difficult mental task.
Yeah.
I think Taijuan Walker has shown he's a guy who can handle it. He's a seemingly great teammate from what we've all heard. He's a guy that is willing to take that. So that's how I've always given him the credit for that, especially over the last 2 seasons. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, I'm going to give you those 2 mystery starters, and we will get into that conversation. 27 non-roster invitees were invited to spring training to the Phillies. One pitcher in particular I am excited about. I'll see if he has anything left. We're also going to get into the top 100 MLB players right now. 5 Phillies made the list. And we'll finish today's show with a Remember Me segment. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. And we'll be right back after this. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. You find out why 90 million users worldwide have teamed up with Bet365 because they are the live in-game betting pioneers. You can get in on constantly changing lines, and you can live stream 780,000 different events each and every year across 78 different sporting platforms. They offer awesome early payout across the NHL. If your team goes up by 3 goals at any point, your bet is going to be marked as a winner. And how about this? Right now, new users who sign up with Bet365, use that promo code on the bottom of the screen there, PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for just $5, and you'll get $200 back in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. You can use that bonus bet money on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and a heck of a lot more. You find out why it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. You must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, you know that old saying, work smarter, not harder. It applies to everything in life, including to your home. And with a TrueMark Financial equity line of credit, you can tap into your home's equity to handle renovations or maybe some unforeseen circumstances that life could throw your way. Or maybe you want to make some upgrades on your house. And with a TrueMark Financial HELOC Select, you have the flexibility to borrow when you need and what you need on your timeline. You start with a revolving line of credit. You use only what you need, and when you're ready, you can lock in all or part of that balance at a fixed rate so you know exactly what you're going to pay. You only pay interest on what you use, and as you pay it back, that money becomes reallocated to you. You don't have to reapply, and there's no extra steps. So you learn more today at TrueMark Financial's home equity line of credit at TrueMark.com, or you can stop by any one of their 24 branch locations to get started. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. NMLS number 404938. Once again, a TrueMark Financial HELOC Select gives you flexibility when you need it. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli, Ethan Hartley, you guys hanging out in the chat. We're going to get back to the mystery players in just a second. Ethan, there's a tweet that's been circulating. This is from 2019, and you see it come out every once in a while. But it is a highly liked, highly retweeted tweet from 2019. And it says, some of you never had your dad hit ground balls as hard as he can at you when you were like 8 years old, and it really shows. So it made me think about, I had my freshman year of high school baseball. It was very early in the season, and we got forced inside to like an inside practice. Field was bad, cold weather, all that stuff. But our inside practices were not at like a practice facility. They were just in the gym. Oh. Like the basketball, not the basketball gym, but like our secondary gym, right?
Okay.
So it was just a gym floor. And we were just do practice like it were a normal field.
Okay.
Taking, short hoppers and stuff like that off of a floor that's not meant for baseballs.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were in the gym. We weren't having a particularly good practice. And somehow the gym lights got shut off. And like in the big, those big overhead gym lights that once you turn them off, they need to like heat up and take time to turn back on. So they were taking forever to turn back on. And my coach, who was already pissed off because it was a bad practice and we lost like 2 in a row, and he was just in a bad mood, the lights go out and he's like, get back in line. We're still going. And he just starts hitting missiles at us in like the semi-dark on a gym floor. I'm like, I'm going to die. This is where I'm like 13 years old. I'm like, this is how my life ends. I'm like thinking about my life choices up to this point. But my man was hitting absolute missiles off of like the, it wasn't like hardwood. Do you know the gym floor I'm talking about? It's like, it's the flat gym floor, but it's like the multi-purpose gym floor. You know what I'm kind of getting at?
I can think of like a few different materials.
I don't know exactly what it's called.
Yeah.
But the thing with a gym floor is, unlike the infield grass, nothing gets slowed down.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, yep, this is it. This is the end of my life.
Did you hurt anyone?
Me and my buddy still tell this story from time to time, being like, you remember that day that we were in the gym? Like, anytime an inconvenience happens at a practice, it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
Did anyone get hurt?
No, surprisingly not.
I can just see someone just taking it like right off the thigh and just like,
no, surprisingly not. It was a bad practice. I mean, we were butchering ground balls because it was like 100-mile-an-hour ground balls right at us. It was rough. But every time I see that tweet, that's the first thing I think of is that one practice that day.
My very even more irrelevant story to that, it just involves the dark. I went to an overnight boys camp. And in our like final like week before we, I guess, like graduated almost, they would haze us. And they woke us up at like, I don't even know what time it was. It might have been 4 a.m. And they told us to put on a blindfold. And they took us to like the main road and they told us to run.
What?
And we ran blindfolded.
That's terrifying. How old were you when this happened?
Probably a little. I think I was going into my junior year of high school.
That's terrifying.
Slightly older. Yeah.
So you're like 16, 17?
Probably like 15, 16.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
And yeah, they made us just like walk around like for a while. But then the road was sand, so we could kind of like recognize where we were just by standing. But they just said run, and it was like, might run into each other, might run into a tree.
Right. What am I running at?
Yeah. No, that's
that's
crazy.
Wild.
Yeah.
Rich says, tell Tyler that a North guy would have never been scared. Damn Judge kids. I mean, yeah. I mean, sure. It was. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna say I was like puff my chest out, Mr. Brave that day. It was not fun. Anyway, let's get back into our mystery players. We have 2 mystery starters for you today. And I think these 2 guys fill different roles in the sense that one would be more of the veteran established. They're both veterans, but one would be more of the guy that you probably would give a full season's worth of starts to. The other one, I think, has the flexibility and the capability to bounce back and forth between a bullpen role and a starter role. But let's get to mystery starter number 1 on the day. This is a mystery pitcher who last year was not as good as he was 2 years ago. Now, normally when we talk about these mystery players and you see those baseball savant pages, you know how much we love our baseball savant pages. There's a lot of blue there. And the thing with this guy is some of that blue doesn't bother me as much as most savant pages, specifically the fastball velocity. This is a crafty veteran lefty who has really never thrown hard in his career, but doesn't throw hard now by any stretch. Posted a 3.96 ERA last year over 24 appearances. Strikeout rates are way down, just 89 strikeouts in 131, almost 132 innings. Walk rates are manageable enough. It leads to a 1.3 whip just because he did give up quite a bit of hits. Now, the one stat I did find interesting was this guy had a sub-3 ERA and a 7-2 record on the road. He really struggled at home, which was a little bit surprising, but his road numbers were much better. Now, going back to that baseball savant page for just a second, He doesn't generate a lot of swing and miss. He doesn't strike out a lot of hitters, and he doesn't throw particularly hard. And the numbers on that page are not as good as they were a year ago, 2 years ago. 2024, his average exit velocities were better. His hard hit percentages were better. His barrel rates were better. He does a pretty good job of keeping the ball on the ground and limiting hard contact. 2 years ago, he did. Last year, those numbers kind of fluctuated a little bit. But in the way that I look at this guy, I'm not entirely surprised because those types of metrics will typically fluctuate with a junk baller. Junk ballers, time to time, have kind of balloon years or regression years in those typical metrics. I do think this guy, you look at the 3.9 ERA, and I have no issue with that, but I do think this guy could be somebody who actually has a better year in 26, closer to his 24 numbers than he did in 2025. Now, the last thing I will say is a big deal for him would be getting the sinker combo changeup back. He does a good job of using both of those pitches against right-handed hitters, running the sinker away from righties, running the changeup down and away off the same side changeup. This is a left-handed pitcher, by the way, if I did not mention. And then using the sinker on the hands of lefties to run it in on their hands and kind of, keep off the sweet spot. Not going to strike out a lot of guys, doesn't have value stuff, 5-pitch mix, willing to use, a lot of his pitches to both sides of the plate. But this is the type of guy that I think has the chance to really solidify the back end of a starting rotation. The team that he pitched for last year has interest in bringing him back. The team that he pitched for 2 years ago is tied to him, and several teams that need starters would bring in a veteran of this caliber. Ethan, I want to get your thoughts on player number 1 here.
Yeah, knowing the name, he has proven himself to be very timeless in the fact that I think as time has gone on, he's been able to not solidify himself necessarily, but keep himself above water where he doesn't experience like these typical fall-offs that a lot of other pitchers experience, which I think is perfect for what the ideal bridge pitcher that we're looking for in this specific scenario for this guy to fill. I guess I do worry market-wise, he's probably better than what like this role is asking for.
Agree. I think this is probably a high end. Yes. Maybe too high end for, not to say he's going to get $20 million a season, but I think this is more of a like stabilizing 3, 4 type of pitcher.
Yes.
As opposed to a 5 who you're hoping to kind of bridge the gap.
Yes. Yeah. I think he's a little too proven where a team is going to be willing to give out, $5-6 million, maybe even a little more for what he's been able to show for the last couple of years.
Do you think he gets a multi-year deal?
Oh, that's hard because he's fairly old.
Yeah, he's
like at least
he will
35?
be 37 when the season starts.
Yeah.
In fact, his birthday is tomorrow.
Wow, really? Good.
Yeah.
Good. Happy birthday to him. So turning 38 then.
He will turn 37.
Okay,
He'll be 37 all season.
Okay. Yeah.
Would you now? Let me ask you this. I think he gets one of 2 types of contracts. I think he either gets a 1-year deal at the, 12-ish range, 10, 12 range, or a 2-year deal worth like 16, so less AAV, but a second year guaranteed. Which do you think the Phillies would find themselves more in on?
I was going to say an option, but we don't like options here.
Well, they don't like to do options here, so. Because I think the Phillies would find themselves more in on, even though they don't want to spend a ton of money, a 1-year deal.
Yeah, that's what I would say at this point, especially in his age. But I mean, they've shown Ping JT that giving a 3rd year hasn't been much of an issue for them. So honestly, I could really talk myself into seeing a 2-year deal for this guy.
2-year club option? Would he take it? Because I don't know if he would take the club option.
Yeah, I don't. I think.
I wonder if he would take it, though, if they back-ended the contract. So, like, let's say 2 for, I'm going to make up a number. 2 for 22, but it's 8 this year and 14 next year.
Yeah.
Where the Phillies have some more flexibility, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or a team in general has some monetary flexibility.
I could see that. I could definitely see it being backloaded, because especially if he's not good this year.
Sure.
You're not really there's almost little sign to feel much
you
better
get out
about
of it with like
year.
a $2 million buyout, kind of like he got this year. So he had a $15 million mutual option that the team declined, and he got a $2 million buyout instead. So knowing what you know about this guy, you say that he's probably too good for this role. But if he were to be interested, would you have interest?
100%.
I would absolutely have 100% interest in this guy.
No doubt.
So somebody said they knew who it was in the chat. For those that don't, this is Jose Quintana, somebody who has really kind of tortured the Phillies over the last couple of years. But I think probably too good for a back-end role like that. I don't know what his market looks like. Market value on him on Spotrac was like $6.5 million, and I find that a little bit hard to believe. But this is Jose Quintana, and it's somebody that if he would have interest in that role, I would absolutely have interest in bringing him in on a one-year deal. All right, we're a little bit over the break, so we have to get to our next break. The other mystery player we'll kind of breeze through quickly. Got another question for you guys on the other side. We'll get to everything else that we talked about, top 100 players, 27 invitees, and our Remember Me to end the show. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We'll be right back after this. All right, so you found your special someone, that person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Now you know what the next question is. Well, before you even pop that question, you're going to have a million different questions about the perfect ring for your partner. That's where our friends at Bucci Jewelry and Design come into play, because you don't know, or maybe you don't know what the 5 C's are, how much money you're able to spend, what your budget is going to get you. It is a stressful experience. I've been there. That's why working with our friends Joe and Michelle at Bucci Jewelry and Design has been a game changer. They make the process seamless. They make you feel like family. You're not just a customer to them. You are one of one. They actually listen to you. They help you figure out what your partner is going to love, and then their team designs something completely custom right there in-house. There's no pressure. There's no pushy sales vibes. It's just good people who love what they do and do what they love. So next time you need that perfect piece, go see Joe and Michelle at Bucci's Jewelry and Design. 30 plus years in the game, voted Philly's #1 jeweler year after year. Over 1,000 5-star reviews. You can check them out at BucciJewelers.com and tell them that we here at PHLY sent you. All right, with the winter months in full swing, you know that means we have an incredible slate of sports across a bunch of different platforms, whether it be pro football playoffs about to start, college football playoff in full swing, and how about this, pro hockey, pro hoops, and college hoops, all right there for your watching enjoyment. And if you call yourself a sports fan, you have to get Xfinity. There's no lagging, no buffering, no switching between apps. It's just the best sporting destination where you can find all of the best games and your favorite teams all in one place. It's the perfect fan flex where you get all of that action right there in your living room. And with crystal clear optics, enhanced sound with 4K, it's going to feel like you're at the arena or at the stadium anyway, and you don't have to worry about battling traffic and paying for tickets. And sometimes you can have up to 4 games going at once with the quad box, because why not? You can. And on top of that, you get real-time notifications and live stats right there on your TV. So next game day, make sure that big fan in your life isn't a big fail. Tell them to learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. What's up, my friends? Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli and Ethan Hartley hanging out with you guys in the chat. Hey, by the way, coming up, obviously this weekend, we know there's going to be potential for some serious heavy snow. We are here at PHLY going to embrace it a little bit. We're going to have a fun day on Wednesday. Thankfully, our bosses are cool and let us all work from home on Monday. So we will be having our Snowed-In Spectacular on Monday. Anthony Gargano show, PHLY Phillies, PHLY Eagles, Sixers, Flyers. All of us will be home from the comfort of our homes, but we're going to have some fun. So on Monday, Ethan, we'll of course do a Phillies show, as we always do. But we're going to have some fun. We'll talk about some different stuff. We'll really digest, like, what do you do during a snowstorm? And what do? You hunker down and you watch movies, you do different stuff. I think we'll get into a conversation on the side about, binge watchable shows and things like that. So if you're kind of in the same boat as us, you're looking for something to watch this weekend, talk about some shows that we really like, some shows that we're interested in, movies that we're interested in. And then my favorite, when I was in radio, we used to do side topics, right? And there was stuff like this. It was fun, entertainment, that lighthearted stuff. My favorite side topic that we always used to do every once in a while, and I think we'll bring it back out on Monday. I'm going to give you a chance to think about it over the weekend. Everybody in the chat, you, Ethan, as well. Everybody likes a good, bad movie from time to time, right? Sometimes a movie's so bad, it's fun. Sometimes you know a movie's bad, but you love it anyway. And I'm not saying it has to be the most horrendous movie ever made. But like, okay, that's a bad movie, but I love it. Think about over the next couple days, and we'll talk about it more on Monday. What's your favorite movie or movies that I would say most people think are bad, but you love anyway? I've got 3 movies that I absolutely love that I know are bad movies, and we'll talk more about it on Monday.
Oh, you got 3 off rip. That's pretty
Well,
impressive.
I've done this segment before.
Yeah.
And the answer hasn't changed. So think about it over the next couple of weeks. Or the next couple of days. We'll talk about it on Monday. It's kind of a fun, almost radio side topic segment. What's your favorite bad movie or movie that people perceive to not be very good? All right, let's get back to our mystery player segment because we do have one more player still today. And this is a player that the Phillies have had ties to before. Here's mystery player number 2. Made 26 appearances last season, had a 4.93 ERA. Through 126 innings, strikeout numbers just kind of like Quintana were down. The whip was bad last year, a 1.5 whip because he gave up 130 hits. But this player was almost, I don't want to say a tale of 2 halves because it's a little bit disingenuous, but was much better after the All-Star break. Posted a 4-1 record with a flat 3 ERA after the All-Star break. Now, what he did well last year was he limited hard contact in the sense of average exit velocity. Didn't generate a lot of swing and miss, didn't generate a lot of strikeouts, doesn't throw nearly as hard as he did when he was younger. His strikeout rates have plummeted. But as we said, in those 10 appearances post-All-Star break, 4-1 with a 3.0 ERA, compared to his first 23 starts with his first team, or 23 appearances with his first team, pitched to a 5.45 ERA and gave up almost 10 hits over 9 innings, pitched. Now, it's safe to say stop 1 was really unsuccessful, with the exception of his last couple of appearances. Stop 2 was a very small, brief stop, but in 3 appearances posted a .66 ERA, and I think you can probably tell by the background what stadium that is. You probably know who this guy is, Ethan. Any interest in bringing this guy back?
I actually don't know who this is.
Okay.
I didn't look. So the numbers seem fine. I think the hits is really concerning. I think just where the priority of defense has started to go, and you got Bohm, known bad defender, Trey Turner. Maybe we'll see Stott, and then Harper on the other side, which is fine, and Bryson especially has been very well. So
yeah, the right side of your defense is excellent.
Yeah, Turner
Turner was awesome last year. Has had some bad years prior to that. I think Bohm's a serviceable enough defensive third baseman. I would never say I don't even know if I'd ever classify him as good. I think he's league average.
I just looked at the name, and that tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah, so now that you know who it is, very small sample size here last year.
Yeah.
Pretty much gives that away.
I'm not opposed. I mean, there was a lot more to be desired from this player a couple of years ago, and I don't know. I mean, I highly doubt he will ever kind of recoup any of that at this point in time, just with the injuries especially. But he was okay.
I will say the one thing he needs to do, his fastball location last year was way too middle for my liking.
Yeah.
For a guy that doesn't throw, because in the beginning of his career, he was throwing 95, 96, 97. He's down to like 92, 93, 94 now. You have to kind of reinvent yourself a little bit as you start throwing a little slower. I would like to see this guy in particular work the edges a little bit more, work the bottom of the zone a little bit more. Fastball location was bad last year for a majority of it, and the fastball got hit around a lot in his first stop.
Yeah, can't be throwing meatballs right across the dish. And
not when you're throwing 93.
Yeah.
You can get away with it sometimes at 100, but even at 100, you need movement.
Yeah.
I think this guy probably more fits the bill of that like back and forth role than Quintana does, obviously.
Yes, and I think that's where it's way more realistic. I think he still has a lot more to prove.
Sure.
Even if in the fact that, I mean, he might be like he might request a trade in this. Well, I don't know, maybe not. I was thinking like in the sense that you can flip him then for later on if he wants some sort of starting role just out of more consistent starting role out of just kindness. But I think this player fits the bill way more for the idea of there are questions he needs to fill for himself rather than like Quintana where it's like you know what you're getting. He's
Sure.
very solid. He's already kind of outside of the range of realism for coming to the Phillies.
Yeah, so obviously we mentioned that said, this guy had a small stop here. Player number 2 is Walker Buehler. I think that there would be merit to bring a player like Walker Buehler back. I think, as you said, he may be looking for a more solidified starting role. I don't know if he's going to get it.
Yeah, I don't know if he's really worth that at this point.
I think that that's probably the type of guy that if you offered him a major league deal, period, that's probably enough.
Yeah.
I don't think, like with Quintana, you would have to say, hey, you're a starter. Like, you're in the rotation.
Yeah.
And unless you're dreadful, you're in the rotation. With Buehler, I think if you say, hey, here's a major league contract, or you could test out the minor league options or head overseas, I think you would take I think you probably would secure him with a solid major league deal.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I think there's more that fits for him and what he needs at this point. He really needs a short stint to kind of show that, like, I'm starting to regain my health and my form, and I still have more to be desired, rather than like Quintana at this point in time,
Sure.
who just is just looking to get any sort of last like big deal contract
Sure.
he can get, because he still pitches well.
Especially if he can get a multi-year deal.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so before we hit our next break, Ethan, I'm just going to pivot here really quickly. I apologize. Let's get to our big takeaway segment of the day so we don't forget it. Our big takeaway segment of the day, as always, is brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. You're probably going to need your Xfinity this weekend as you get snowed in. So make sure you take advantage of some of the best internet speeds around with our friends over at Xfinity. And our big takeaway of the day is that MLB put out its top 100 players right now, and 5 Phillies made the list. Headlining the list at number 17 is their MVP runner-up, Kyle Schwarber. 25th on the list, Trey Turner, the shortstop. 29th on the list, Christopher Sanchez. 32nd is Bryce Harper. And 51 is Zack Wheeler heading into the 2026 season. Now, my big takeaway of this list, Ethan, is not Kyle Schwarber, who actually I think that feels kind of right where he's at for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, of course, positional value. Guys ahead of him, most of them are either position players, pitchers, or in Shohei Ohtani's case, DH and starting pitcher. So he's not providing you anything defensively, obviously. And while he did post career numbers last year, 56 home runs, 132 RBI, I think him being at that 17 mark is probably a fair spot to be. There you see the list. 25, Trey Turner. The big takeaway for me, though, is Christopher Sanchez at 29. Because initially, my first thought was, that seems low for the guy that finished second in the National League Cy Young voting. And then I went back and I looked at the list. Specifically, I was looking for starting pitchers that were ahead of him. And there were 4 starting pitchers in the top 28 ahead of Christopher Sanchez. Would you like to take a guess at who they were?
Paul Skeens.
Paul Skeens, the NL Cy Young winner, is ahead of him.
Yamamoto?
Yamamoto's ahead of him. Okay. One spot is he was 27th. He is ahead of him.
Skubal.
Tarik Skubal,
Yeah.
back-to-back Cy Youngs in the American League. He's on that list as well. And one guy I love a lot, and I think is
Crochet.
And Garrett Crochet is the other one.
Okay.
So those are the 4 starters ahead of him. If I asked you truthfully, would you rank Christopher Sanchez ahead of any of those guys? Is there a definitive yes to any of those pitchers?
Maybe Yamamoto, but even after the World Series,
definitively,
run, yeah, that's
because I could get behind maybe.
Yeah.
Like there's an argument to be made.
Yeah.
I don't know if I definitively put Sanchez over any of those 4.
I don't know. Well, again, especially after the World Series, and
right.
if that's where this list is coming from, what Yamamoto did, where Christopher Sanchez did not make an appearance, obviously, that will leave a little more to be desired for writers.
When we do tier lists, there's always the S tier, like the elite of the elite. I think 3 starting pitchers in baseball are in the S tier. I think it's Paul Skeens, Tarik Skubal, Garrett Crochet. That's my S tier. That's my S tier standing by itself. The A tier then ranks, to me, Christopher Sanchez, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Hunter Brown, who finished 1 spot behind Christopher Sanchez. Mm-hmm. Those 3 guys are the next tier down. So if I argue that those 3 guys, Crochet, Skeens, and Skubal, are in a tier by themselves, I can't put Christopher Sanchez ahead of any of them. So the argument to me would be, Yamamoto, Yamamoto, Sanchez, and Hunter Brown. And I think I'm okay with, when I get to that conclusion, I actually think I'm okay with where Christopher Sanchez ranks at 29.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe again, this is a Phillies podcast. We probably have a little more bias than
Sure.
they do, but I mean, by the numbers, I think again, and this is like a rankings list. I think it is just splitting hairs at the bottom at the end of the day.
Broad Street Bullies. Yamamoto is the best damn pitcher in baseball. I said what I said. He's top 5, top 6. Like, as I said, it's those 6 I think are in a group, because then you get to guys with good stuff that maybe need a little bit more. Like the guy I go to who's not in that tier yet, but I think has elite level stuff, is Hunter Green from the Reds. Like nasty stuff. I think I'd like to see it, put together. Mm-hmm. Zack Wheeler's still amongst that group, assuming he comes back in a capacity that we're expecting him to. But I think like those 3, Skubal, Crochet, Skeens, they're the top 3 pitchers in baseball for me. And then I would be okay if you put Sanchez, Yamamoto, Brown, 4, 5, 6 in any order. Real quick, the top 5 in baseball. No surprise, Shohei Ohtani, number 1. No surprise, Aaron Judge, number 2. Love this guy. Glad he's number 3 for the second straight year. Bobby Witt Jr. Number 4, jumping up from 59 to number 4, Cal Raleigh. Number 5, going from number 9 to number 5, Mr. Consistent, just year in and year out, an elite level player, Jose Ramirez. Any problem with that top 5?
No, not really.
Real quick, 6 through 10, Juan Soto 6th, Paul Skeens 7, Tarek Skubal 8, Corbin Carroll number 9, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. number 10.
I think I'd bump Skubal up a little more.
Would you put Skubal over Skeens? Because I think back-to-back Cy Youngs, you have to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think there's a real chance Skubal could win again.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paul Skeens is the future of the pitching position. Skubal, I think, is going to be 28 or 29. Right this second, if you said, who do you want, Skubal or Skeens? I think I'm taking Skubal.
Well, especially you have to consider postseason as well. I mean, Paul Skeens has never pitched in the postseason.
Sure, I think it matters. And then just really quickly, the rest of that list, Lindor, Crochet, Yamamoto was 13. I apologize. I don't know why I said he was 20. Bless you. Yamamoto was 13th. Acuna, Tatis, Julio Rodriguez, and then Kyle Schwarber at 17. And as we said, Bryce Harper, 32. Zack Wheeler, 51. That's our big takeaway segment of the day, brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. We got one final break. We'll get to Remember Me on the other side. And we'll wrap up our festivities for the week here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We'll be right back after this. Guys, let's be honest for a second. You get into your 30s, things start to get a little bit more difficult. Your workouts become harder. Your recovery time seems to take more time. So you start to do Google searches and figure out what's going on. Is it just because I'm getting older? And what keeps coming up? Well, potentially low T. And doctors, they act like TRT. It's no big deal. Just $3,000 for the rest of your life to shut down your natural production of testosterone forever. So if you want to head into the new year, turn back the clocks and make things easier for your body the natural way, that's where our friends at Mars Men come into play. They give you the same benefits of optimized testosterone, the energy, the strength, the focus, without shutting your body down. It's real natural ingredients, and it's like hitting the reset button on your body and your hormone factory instead of shutting it down entirely. So for a limited time, if you're interested, our listeners right now get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year strong. Again, mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. Do you really want one of your starting pitchers pinch hitting in a big spot? Of course you don't. It's not worth the risk, the time, or the money. You want to keep your stars focused on what they do best. And the same can be said for your business. You don't want your top people buried in operations, the tedious, time-consuming, redundant activities that not only take their time away, but also wear them down. You want to make sure your impact players stay fresh and focused on what they do best. That's where our friends at Togo come in. They're an integrated part of your team that take the work off your starter's plate so they can focus on making your company and your business move forward. Every engagement starts with free process mapping and engineering, and there is not a dime billed to you until the real work begins. And with each Togo program, they include a dedicated staff, custom automation, and a US-based process engineer team who act as your quarterback while you stay in control. At Togo, they turn your playbook into performance. You call the shots, they execute your way, and they advise along the journey. Visit harnesstogo.com to scale smarter, work faster, and stay focused on winning. One final segment here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli and Ethan Hartley hanging out with you guys. Let's get into our Remember Me segment of the day. We didn't get a chance to do it on Wednesday, so we'll do it on Friday today. And I saw that top 100 list, and Bryce Harper at 32. And, you know, we've had the Bryce Harper, is he or is he not elite experience now for the entirety of the offseason. And I was thinking back to the year that Bryce Harper signed, the spring of 2019. I think a lot of us remember where we were. I could tell you exactly where I was at the time that it happened, you know, crystal clear. And I was thinking about, it was Machado and it was Harper. But of course, a lot of other big-time free agents signed or I shouldn't say big-time free agents, a lot of other free agents signed that offseason. So I wanted to do, Ethan, our category today is 3 players who signed free agent contracts the winter and spring that Harper and Machado did that switched teams.
Okay.
So like Harper, like Machado, switching teams. 3 players that switched teams that offseason, not as memorably as Harper, Machado, and Patrick Corbin. All right, let's get into player number 1. I see that. That's a great comment, by the way. The Phillies should hire Togo to help them develop their offseason plan. They would certainly help. All right, let's get to player number 1. This is a 15-year Major League vet who, despite playing 15 years, only played for 2 teams. Finished 3rd in the 2014 American League MVP voting. And this was an interesting fact that I didn't know. Was the player to be named later in the deal that sent CC Sabathia to Milwaukee at the trade deadline in the 2008 postseason. Obviously, you remember CC pitched against the Phillies in the divisional round, the Shane Victorino Grand Slam. But there ended up being the player to be named later in that deal. And Ethan, I got to be honest with you. Like, I was thinking about this guy. This guy pops into my head every once in a while, you know, when I play old MLB games or something like that. This guy was an unbelievably consistent hitter for like a 12-year period. Mm-hmm. I think you might know who this is.
Yeah, and actually, it immediately popped in my head because I know who the player to be named later was in the.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, that was
okay.
Like, well, because you know, the idea of a player to be named later is like, okay, this is just
it's a throw-in.
Yeah,
right.
Basically, it's a weird
Speaking random player to be named later, I believe Trey Turner was a player to be named later.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yes,
yeah, but this one I did know, and as Broad Street Bullies points out in the chat, it's Michael Brantley.
It is Michael Brantley. 3 times 40 or more doubles. 6 times 35 or more doubles. Yeah, in his career.
He was really good.
Really good hitter.
Yeah, almost like underrated. I mean, maybe even
finished his career 298. Just shy of an 800 OPS for his career, 117 OPS plus. Finished his career with almost 350 doubles. He's a really good player, man.
Yeah.
This is the type of guy that, like, every year you're like, man, I wish I had a Michael Brantley on my team. Guy who could hit 2nd, could hit 5th, could hit 6th. Was a 5-time All-Star, was really good in Cleveland, had some really good years in Houston as well. But yeah, player to be named later in the CC Sabathia trade. You know, and the funny thing with player to be named later is like, from what my understanding of player to be named later is like, you have a pool of players and they say, pick one of these 7 players. And most of the time it's career minor leaguer, maybe had a cup of coffee in the majors. Michael Brantley had a great career after being traded from the Brewers to the Cleveland organization.
Yeah, it is a very unique, I guess, rule or mechanic in baseball transactions where, you know, that's never even, you couldn't even fathom that in really any other sport. Like I don't know.
We'll give you somebody later down the line.
Yeah, well, I think of like in football, like I can just poach your backup corner.
Well, that's the thing.
corner at
Like
end of
you
the
can have
year.
somebody off of our practice squad.
Yeah, like that idea is just it's so unique to this. But yeah, no, Michael Brantley was
Really good player.
Player right on top of that.
And one of those players, I always talk about guys like, who's a player that the next generation might not understand how good they were? I always think about, my answer is always Michael Kadire was an awesome player. Kadire, I may have won an MVP at one point. Michael Kadire's an answer. My answer is always Justin Morneau, who won an MVP. Kadire was also a really good player, but Justin Morneau is my answer to that question. Brantley fits that bill. Like, might not be remembered as how good he actually was.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a real quick before we get to our 2 and 3 and Remember Me. I want to say thank you to everybody on our streaming platforms, our Roku, Samsung, Xfinity platforms. Head on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. We are officially in overtime, which we're still working to make extra innings. We'll do it eventually, I promise. Let's get to player number 2. Our Remember Me player number 2 is a veteran reliever. 14 years in the big leagues, spent 14 years with 9 different teams, was a 2-time All-Star, also twice had 40 saves in his major league career, finished 3rd all-time in Royals saves numbers. And I'll be honest with you, Ethan, now probably a little bit before your time and when he was dominant, but there was a case to be made for like a 3 or 4 year period where this dude was one of the best relievers in all of baseball.
Wow, okay.
Bounced around a little bit towards the end, was trying to hang around, trying to just keep his major league career intact. But I told you he pitched for the Royals. His best years were with the Royals. There were 3 or 4 years with the Royals, man, where this dude was nasty.
What years were I imagine.
I would say late 2000s, early 2010s.
Okay, yeah, this will.
Was not a member of the Royals World Series. Well, actually, may have been back. Second stint. Wasn't nearly as good as the first stint.
Yeah.
But his best years were like late 2000s. It is not Houston Street. Great guess. He spent most of his career with Colorado. But Chris Lem's got it.
Yeah, I was about to name off that guess. I don't know.
It's Joaquim Soria, who was
a little bit. Rings a bell.
You probably remember him as kind of like the vet who bounced around a little bit.
Yeah.
But in the late 2000s, man, 2008 All-Star, 1.6 ERA, 42 saves.
Wow.
2009, not an All-Star, 2.21, 30 saves. 2010 All-Star, 1.78, 43 saves.
Wow.
He was nasty for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do think maybe he was on their World Series team second time through, but yeah, that first stint through Colorado or through Kansas City was nasty.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look for you.
All right, good pull, Slam. Let's get to player number 3. And I saw an interesting video about this guy. I'll tell you about it in just a little bit. This is an 11-year vet who pitched for 4 different teams. Was traded to the Houston Astros for, at the time, prospect Josh Hader, who ended up, funny enough, now pitching, was back with Houston.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little thrown off.
This guy threw 2 no-hitters in his major league career, but I would consider this guy to be a journeyman, very average pitcher through most of his career, but has 2 no-hitters in his major league career.
Trying to think of. Can you name me any of the more recent teams that this guy would have been on?
Obviously spent time with Houston.
Yeah.
Was with Oakland. I believe pitched for the Tigers at one point. I don't remember the 4th team, but those 3 for sure. Not Sonny Gray and not Michael Lorenzen. Good guesses. This player is not still pitching.
I'm trying to think of like recent obscure no-hitters.
So I will give you the players that it's not. It's not Dallas Braden. It's not Philip Humber. Those obscure no-hitters you're talking about.
Yeah.
Obviously not Domingo Germán.
Yeah.
Not Lorenzen.
Oh.
Humber, I think, threw a perfect game.
Is this the last name is Hauser. I don't know the first name.
It's not Adrian Hauser.
Oh, really?
Nope, not Dallas Braden. But the answer is in the chat.
Mike.
It's Mike Fiers.
Oh,
Who?
Wow.
Interesting story about Mike Fiers. I was looking to get some information on him. Josh Reddick was on a podcast, former Astro Josh Reddick.
Yeah.
And apparently aired out some tea about the Mike Fiers' disdain for the Astros going and acquiring Justin Verlander. I guess Fiers was like wanted to be the dude.
Yeah.
And was mad when they got Justin Verlander. And Josh Reddick was like, dude, that would be like me getting pissed off if we would have traded for Mike Trout at the time. Like, hey, man, yeah, I want to play, but like you just acquired one of the best players at his position. Go win us a World Series.
Yeah.
And apparently Fiers was not very happy that they traded for Justin Verlander. I just sent you a picture. I need you to post this. It's on our Slack channel in the Phillies beat. I need you to post this if you can, because we got to talk about Mike Fiers for a second. This is perhaps one of the worst beards I've ever seen in my life. Now, this is coming from somebody who does not grow a particularly strong beard. I have a beard and I keep the beard because if I don't, I would look like I'm 18 again. I look terrible with a clean-shaven face. So I understand I'm being a little bit hypocritical having a pretty bad beard myself. This is a manicured decision. This isn't like, oh, you have scruff and you look bad with this beard. This is a manicured decision to do like a curly Q beard. What is this? This is the worst beard I've ever seen.
Breaking news. Former Philly Sir Anthony Dominguez is going to the White Sox for 2 years, $10 million.
Interesting.
Or $20 million.
It's a good deal for the White Sox, I think. White Sox kind of starting to maybe turn the corner a little bit.
Yeah.
Getting some good team value deals. Well, $10 million is a little bit more than you'd like to pay per year, but you need a back end of the bullpen type of guy.
Yeah.
Not a bad move for the White Sox.
Yeah. Works.
I don't think they're going to be Drek anymore.
They'll probably be okay.
They're going to be bad. They're going to be bad, I think.
Yeah, some of the other prospects I think will kind of be on the come up.
Well, like I think the guys that I feel really good about, right? Colson Montgomery, obviously.
Yeah.
I still like Edgar Caro quite a bit. They like Kyle Teal. Really, their only bad contract at this point is Andrew Benintendi.
Yeah,
that's not a bad deal for them. Let's get Was he drunk? WTF? Lost a bet. LOL, what? It's one of the worst beards I've ever seen. Like, did you ever see, you were talking about hazing earlier. Did you ever see NFL, like the Tim Tebow, where they made him go with like the monk haircut? You know what I mean? Like the NFL hazing where you have to like do a bad haircut. That, he was established, he went to the barber and was like, mess my bleep up, bro.
This is really funny.
This is terrible. He was like, yo, you know the curly Q? He's like, you know Fibonacci sequence? That's what I want on my face.
Fibonacci sequence.
That's awful.
I'm going to pull this up quickly.
What, the Tim Tebow?
Yeah.
Oh, it's bad. The Tim Tebow is awful.
This is certainly, at least it's very obnoxious.
Well, there was a reason behind it, right? Like, I think rookie hazing should stop, but it was a rookie hazing thing. Fiers was a vet when he did that.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
That's a choice. This is just like, okay,
literally
whatever.
Mess my face up, bro.
Well,
like,
and Tim Tebow gets to wear a helmet.
Right.
Whereas no, you are rocking with that thing.
Certainly a choice. All right, let's wrap up today's show. Big thanks to everybody hanging out in the chat. I appreciate y'all playing along to our Remember Me as always. Thanks for being here for another edition of the PHLY Phillies podcast. Huge thank you to Ethan Hartley for producing and co-hosting today's show, and really being a big part of Anthony's show today as well. Double duty for Ethan. Really appreciate you stepping up in a big way for us here on PHLY. Coming up the rest of the day, we have, of course, the PHLY Eagles show at 2, a Flyers pre- and post-game show, 8:30 pre-game show, 9 o'clock puck drop, and then 10 minutes after the show, the Flyers will be live The Flyers show will be live for a post-game show. Sixers pre and post tomorrow. And then Monday, we have our all-day snowed-in spectacular. We'll have some fun. We'll talk baseball, of course, but we're going to have some fun, Ethan, as well. So until that time, have a wonderful weekend. Please be safe with the weather. Obviously, make sure that your elderly neighbors are taken care of. Those who may not be able to do it are taken care of if you can. Help out where you can. Neighbors helping neighbors, people helping people. I think it's going to be an important weekend to do that. We'll talk to you on Monday at noon for the next installment of the PHLY Phillies podcast. We love you. We'll talk to you then. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.